You're listening to the REITE Club podcast, where the focus is all about helping you grow your real estate investment portfolio and live the life you want to live. Come grow with us and join our community at thereiteclub.com. And now your hosts, Sarah Larby and Alfonso Salemi.
Yeah, I always look for the major expenses. Roof, windows, and HVAC are usually the biggest ones to assess first. And then beyond that, you can kind of gauge stuff out with some ballpark numbers. If you're going to be putting in, a reasonable floor, you're looking at, $5 to $6 a foot, and you start kind of building up those kinds of things. Where a lot of people get caught, and I had this happen to me a couple of years back, was the costs that are not necessarily associated to the renovation of the house, more to do with the carrying costs. And those are those sneaky costs that I think a lot of people don't know in advance, or they don't assume correctly. And those are the ones that will erode your profits very, very quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. Holding costs are a big thing. And I think, the other part of it is that there's a difference type of reno that you're going to do for a property you're going to sell and flip, or a property that you're going to rent, and based on where that is too. So like when I'll look at a property, if it needs a roof, a furnace, and brand new windows, and has some foundation problems, or any combination of those, I probably won't even take it, because I can't get my ARV out enough versus doing kitchens and bathrooms, flooring, paints, light fixtures. I find for me, for the BRRRR strategy, that's where I usually get my best ARV, my best reno, versus messing around with too many high ticket items all at once. But that may differ when you're selling a property and you're renovating to sell, if you want top dollar in a higher end market, as an example. What are your thoughts on that, Michael?
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Sarah. I think, you can spend $30,000 in windows in a house and very quickly, and you don't necessarily get that money back, even dollar for dollar, when it comes time to sell a house or have it appraised for the BRRRR. Yeah, it's kind of nice. And in the long run, you're going to have better efficiency in heating and cooling the home and all those great things. As far as an investment to get a relatively quick return on, it's not going to be money well spent.
Right. Where did you do most of your flips?
I'd say 90% of those are in Hamilton.
Okay. And who are you selling to? Like, who was your target purchaser?
That's a really great question. And I think where another potential sticking point, and one of my 3 things when you're flipping a house, is start with the end in mind. Who is going to be your target buyer, right? You've got to figure out if 80% of the people moving into an area are young families and first-time buyers, then you don't want to put in the most expensive finishes, because they probably can't afford it, right? So start with the end in mind and know who your ideal buyer is going to be, and really gear it towards them. So, we've done projects in Hamilton, and we've done some projects in Burlington, and they're very different projects. The budgets have to be different. Even the timelines have to be different, which has an effect on your holding costs. So.
And also, like, with the realtor background as well too, and a lot of people kind of juggle back and forth, say, hey, should I leave my full-time job, also become a realtor as an investor, or even a mortgage broker, and thinking about those types of things. Is there a huge advantage, or for yourself working with many investors, you get to see these markets that have moved, gone up, down in different periods of time. Where do you foresee, or like from a long-term hold perspective, like the properties are going to kind of follow that path of progress? So what are some strategies that the investors can look at, or some key stats that they can use to make themselves comfortable before they take that action, or decide on making their first purchase, or their long-time purchase?
So I guess there's a couple of questions in there. I'll start with the first one. The reason why I got my real estate license was because I wanted to flip more homes. And I thought getting my real estate license would give me the access to the information and It did, and it does. However, what also happened at the same time was I started talking to people about being a realtor, and then I got so busy being a realtor, I didn't have time available to be able to flip the houses anymore the way that I was doing them. So I have to shift now. If I'm going to continue doing that, I can't be on the tools and investing 3 or 4 months of my time into flipping a house while being a realtor and doing everything else. So you kind of have to pick your path and pick your lane and stay in your lane, in my opinion, if you want to really go far with what you're doing. So, it's that whole jack of all trades, master of none. And I think that really does apply here.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
I mean, you guys can attest to that too, I'm sure. I mean, could you imagine if you now had your real estate licenses and you had to invest, 30, 40 hours a week because you've got clients that, this house came on the market, so I need to see it tonight because there's going to go.
I mean, I think that's the thing, right? So for me personally, it's just, I don't want another job. Like, I'm doing real estate to free myself a little bit more. But I was thinking at one point, the pros and cons, and I was weighing them, and they're going to be different for everybody. But can we actually talk about that? Because there's a lot of questions. I get that question all the time. I love real estate. Should I become a realtor? And, it is another job in a sense. Like, yes, you're working for yourself or you're the brokerage, but I guess you're self-employed, but there's definitely some good, and then there's definitely some bad, and then there's also I mean, you're in a bit of a different situation. You're an investor as well, but a lot of people are like, oh sweet, I'm going to make like so much money. And then you look at the stats of realtors, like, and you probably know this more than me, but they're like astonishingly low. Like, the average income of a realtor, like, what is it, like 30 grand, 40 grand or something, like crazy low.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because I literally just ran those numbers yesterday for another project that I'm working on. And in our particular area, so the Hamilton, Burlington area, the average realtor in 2019 sold 4 homes.
So that equals to 50 grand?
About 50 grand. And then you have to pay your licensing every year. You've got to pay your RICO insurance every year. Now you've got to have like your car, your cell phone, your brokerage dues. Like, you start putting all that stuff together, you're going to invest. Even if you go to a brokerage that offers like 100% commission and you pay a flat fee thing, like, it's still going to cost you a couple $1,000. So, like, the honest truth of it is a lot of realtors are struggling, and it's not an easy business to achieve a high level of success in. And it's expensive. Like, just to hold your license for a year, it could cost you $5,000 to $7,000 to $10,000, and that's before you actually sell a house.
Yeah, and back to your earlier point, right, is that we work with many realtors in the rent to own program, a lot of realtors that are part of the REITE Club and that come out, but there's all different. There's good. I don't say there's good and there's bad. There's different specialties, right, where certain areas that some people strive in and not, and you have to again know who your target is. The same way when you're selling your property, you need to know who you're selling it is. But if you're a realtor, it's hard to be that master of all trades, right? And it's
For sure.
and I think I don't know if it might have been you. We might have said this to you. You might have said this to me, but it's like you can do anything, but you can't do everything, right? And at least not all at once, right? And so like the maybe some of the benefits, maybe the good things as a realtor that you can have, maybe from the other perspective of I know it's going to take time, it's another job, but again, with the systems, things that you can put in place, potentially you can develop that. But what are some good things from an investor hat? We're even just working with a good realtor or being that realtor.
I think one of the tough things for me, just because of the kind of person that I am, is if, as an example, I've got a client who's looking for a really great BRRRR strategy for a house, and I come across a really fantastic opportunity. I might be in a position to jump on that myself, but I'm going to call my client and say, hey, I've got this really great opportunity for you. We should go take a look at it. And I will give my investors that I'm working with first shot at doing that kind of a deal. And even with the residential clients that I work with, I bought a house years ago, and I actually showed it to two of my clients first before I bought it, because I wanted them to have the opportunity before I would take care of it. Now that's my own personal philosophy, but I like to see. I figure I'm going to succeed through others, so I want to see them do well, and I can figure out how to do other stuff or buy another house, or there'll be other. There's so many projects out there. I don't have to get in the way of somebody else being successful.
Thanks for listening to the REITE Club podcast and joining our community of real estate investors online at thereiteclub.com, where the focus is about helping you grow. We look forward to seeing you again next week. Thanks from your hosts, Sarah Larby and Alfonso Salemi.